separation between the Lorena who was emerging as a Chicana and emerging as an indigenous woman, and then still being stuck in what I felt was the motherhood trap.
In my parents' eyes, it's if you don't have kids, then you're like a rotten tree, or a tree that can't bear fruit. So if the tree can't bear fruit, then it's useless and should be chopped down.
I don't think that it was because I didn't want to turn into my mother, but I do remember that being my mother's sole identity growing up. Everything about her life was what was her next move as a mom. And I didn't feel that I knew who she was because she didn't tell us what she wanted. We never knew because it was always about us.
My mom, on the other hand, she was very hard with me. She grew up in a generation where women had to be mothers and, caretakers, and her expectations of what I should be doing were different than what my father thought. She wanted me to clean the house, and she wanted me to clean up after my brothers. And, if I didn't do that, she was very, very tough on me.
To my mother, being a good worker and knowing how to do things and making clothes for us, good meals, that to her was love.
Are we martyring ourselves? I don't know what it is, because my mom used to say that a lot, right? She used to say, me estoy martirizando por ustedes. And I'm like, why?
I felt a lot of pressure from my family and society to have kids.
And so when I'm starting this journey of learning who I am, I'm suddenly find myself a mother, and then I have to just be a mother. And everybody knew that I was a mother. And how can you go out and have fun? How can you learn who you are? How can you travel to Mexico if you're a mother? And so there was, I would say, a slight separation between the Lorena who was emerging as a Chicana and emerging as an indigenous woman, and then still being stuck in what I felt was the motherhood trap.
I guess I took that very serious, or it was something that I internalized. And I always felt that if I didn't have kids, then I wasn't a woman.
Why the fuck do we do that shit? Where does that come from?
From poverty. My mother, I asked her why didn't you go, about going to school, and my mother was able to go to 8th grade, and she remembers telling me that she had shoes and someone stole her shoes, and because she didn't have shoes anymore, she couldn't go to school. And I just remember thinking my poor mother couldn't finish school because she had no shoes.
I had collectors calling me. So I used all the money that I had to make the final payment on the child. And I had $20, $30 left. And I remember going to the store to buy earrings because I needed something to make me feel that I was worth something. And I got those earrings, and I always liked to remind me of things were going to get better.
The sad thing is that I can't recall any self-care that I engaged in when I became a mother. I feel like before I was a mother, I could regulate myself. I could channel my inner Buddha, and I would take care of myself. I would go for jogs, did my nails, remember to shower regularly, take trips. And then once my children were born, all my self-care went out the window. There was just no time for me. I didn't know how to make that time. I felt like it's all about my kids, and I want them to grow up healthy and happy and with a full-time job. There was just no time for self-care.
And it really sucks that I've kind of lost a little of my sense of who I am. I've lost myself a little bit to the motherhood. And sometimes I wish I could find that old Miriam again because I miss her. And it's lonely. It's lonely not to have that drive or that, like, just that sense of like, oh, I'm going to, do this, or I'm going to, like, you get into the day to day. Work, kid, repeat, clean, laundry, dinners. And I'm really sad that I lost who I used to be. And, I have hope that I will find her, again at some point. But right now I don't have the bandwidth to kind of deal with that. I have to just keep going forward, to get my child the right care, to get her the right things, to have a job to do that, to be healthy, not to die, right? There's a lot of things that I need to take care of before I can come back to me.
My self-care was running away. My self-care was having 2 jobs so I didn't have to mother. My self-care was the internet because it was emergent at that time, and learning new things, but not necessarily learning them to teach them, learning them to pass time. And that really was the crux of my existence at that time, finding ways to not be engaging in motherhood, honestly.
But I knew that I said, oh, wow. Like, I would even draw, like, the fallopian tubes becoming chains. Like, I have artwork since I was 12 years old. I was one of those young women who I wanted to know everything about sex because I didn't want to have my ignorance be used against me.
I've recently learned them. In the last 2 or 3 years, I have been really being intentional about asking her what she wanted to be as a child. And in fact, 2 weeks ago, I asked her, what was your dream? Like, if you could have been anything when you grew up, what was your dream? And she didn't even skip a beat. And she said, quería ser enfermera.
And I was expecting her to say, oh, like everybody. And she goes, ay, mija, we were so poor. We couldn't even afford to dream. So when I heard her say that, I was like, wow, that's a level of poverty and hopelessness that I couldn't even imagine. Because we all take it for granted that dreaming is free and that anyone can dream. My mother was like, no, I didn't even think like that. I couldn't even think like that.
So it made sense that she became a mom because she took care of us. She took care of everyone around her. She took care of the community. She took care of her friends at church. We couldn't get a scrape or a bruise without her taking care of us. So it absolutely made sense that she wanted to be a nurse, because in every way and every day now, she has nursed me back to be who I needed to be. La campeona, who I needed to be.
I remember my mom like cooking like these elaborate meals too, and like making sure everyone was fed, but she would like make herself a little tiny plate. She still does. But I think it's also like we love very deeply, right? Like maybe we just haven't learned to love ourselves as much, but we love others very deeply, and our children, like we've never learned that kind of love until we had them, right? And so for us, like they mean everything, and we want to make sure that they're well taken care of. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and cut camera 2.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
I thought you were gonna make me cry. You made me cry.
That's a wrap. That's it.
We're done. We did it. you.